Hi, my name's Dave, and thank you for once again joining us in our journey towards a simpler, more sustainable life. As we've mentioned before, our definition of sustainability includes the triple bottom line, the concept that holds that nothing is really sustainable unless you address environmental sustainability, financial sustainability, and human sustainability at the same time. It's like a three-legged stool. Take any one away and it falls over. Today we want to really focus on human sustainability. While all three of these issues are timely, human sustainability right at this moment in early 2021 seems to be particularly relevant. And I think it's worth talking about how each of us can take measures into our own hand. We don't need to wait for government programs. We don't need to wait for giant companies to help us out. We don't need to wait for grants. We don't need to wait for nonprofits. We just need to do it ourselves. And there are probably an infinite number of options for what we each can do to improve human sustainability in our globe, in our country, in our communities, in our family, in our neighborhoods. And while I don't claim to have all the answers, and I'm not even going to be touching the few that I have, I want to touch on one idea that has withstood the test of time, that represents something that each and every one of us can do to help improve the life of so many people. Because everybody's hurting. Some people are hurting in different ways than one another. Other people are hurting more than others are, but we all are troubled, and yet we all are in a situation to help other people. And I want to read to you a story, and it's a story that is true, that's turned into a legacy, and illustrates a tool that I'd like to suggest we all consider following to make this world more sustainable from a human perspective. So let me read this story. It was a time of transition in history. Computers existed, albeit in small numbers, of a vastly different configuration. The race for space was about to dawn. World War II was over, and the Cold War was just budding. The Bay of Pigs, the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Great Society, all were phrases on the lips of all Americans. So were the terms communist, civil rights, and bomb shelter. Single-parent families and welfare were not common terms, nor was environment or ecology. The baby boom was in full explosion. Food stamps, Medicare, and Medicaid had not yet been invented. Seattle was not a well-known town. Boeing was there, but Bill Gates was a toddler. The Space Needle was but a dream in some unknown designer's mind, and coffee was, well, coffee. Just north of Seattle was a different lower middle class neighborhood. This is where David lived. David was, on the one hand, very ordinary. What was not ordinary about David, something that is all too common today, is that David was from a single-parent family. He wrestled with this as he grew up. David's mother was once featured in a newspaper article unrelated to her marital status, but a divorced couple was odd enough that the headline referred to her as a divorcee. The stereotypes of a broken family, often depicted in the media, just didn't seem to fit his family. Some of the descriptors did fit, however. While he didn't always think of themselves that way, David knew that most people would likely consider them to be poor. There were moments in David's life when this poverty was punctuated. David remembers the time he was carrying a jug of milk from the refrigerator to the counter and slipped and dropped it. Every drop spilled, and David cried because he knew they didn't have the money to buy more. Unlike today, there were no food stamps or welfare checks to make ends meet. But David's family had abundance in other ways. They had friends, lots of friends. These friends helped in many ways. David learned to mow the lawn from a neighborhood man. He taught not only the fine points of mowing the lawn, but the importance of doing it without having to be told. David remembers being asked to the father-son spaghetti dinner at church by a couple of men in the congregation. Perhaps the things that David's family had the most of were love and faith. There was never a shortage of either. The miracle of compounding interest that David later learned in business school was nothing compared with the geometric increase when a little love is complemented by a little bit more love from someone else. Similarly, the lessons learned from living with a little faith only serves to give us more faith. David learned that lean earthly resources often prompted an abundance of these more eternal resources. Furthermore, faith and love often compensate for the shortage of earthly needs, often in very tangible ways. This lesson was particularly profound on one occasion in David's family. So profound was that lesson that it is still bearing fruit to this day over 60 years later. So profound was that lesson that it benefits more and more people each and every day. One day, David's mother was performing her monthly duty of paying the bills. This was always a stressful time for her because she wanted so desperately to provide for her little family, and the balance in her checking account never seemed to go far enough. Anticipating this, she added up all of the bills and compared it to her bank balance. She was $50 short. What she did next was a matter of routine. She relied on what she found most reliable, prayer. She asked God for yet another miracle, and then she went about her other domestic duties. Later, the mail was retrieved from the mailbox. One letter was postmarked from Eastern Canada from a family friend named Christie. While a lifelong friend of David's mother, this was not a friend that often wrote. The letter was simple and to the point. Dear Kathleen, I don't know why, but I've been thinking about you a lot this week. For some reason, I feel led to send you this check. All I ask is that you don't thank me, but thank God. I don't want you to repay me, only that you help someone else when you are able to. Love, Christie. Along with the letter was a check for $50. That was a life-changing event, not just for David and his mother, but for hundreds, maybe even thousands of people. The Christie story has been told over and over and over again. It is told whenever David or his family learns of a need that needs to be met. If they can, they meet it. When they do, they tell the Christie story. The conditions of their help are the same conditions imposed by Katie. Don't thank us, thank God. Don't repay us, just help someone else when you are able to do so. Easily hundreds have heard the Christie story from David and his family. But because of Katie's request, each of those people have helped many people themselves. And on and on and on. The end is not in sight. David's brother is in a professional services industry, and he often finds people that need his services that cannot pay. He provides the service, tells a Christie story, then sends them on their way with instructions to pass it on. Some do so begrudgingly, but more do so with pride and great pleasure. One time someone helped David's brother in some way and then told him the Christie story. It had gone full circle. David formalized the process a bit. He wrote a short version of the Christie story and printed it on paper the size of a dollar bill. When he encountered people in need of money, he gave them the money along with the slip of paper. He even has walked the city streets looking for people to give money and to also give the Christie story. There has been a movie produced that tells a very similar story as the Christie story. Who knows if the impetus for the story is connected with the Christie story? Helping others in the spirit of Christie does not always involve money. It has taken the form of favors, chores performed, or even simply time spent with someone in need of a listening ear. In any case, it's a powerful concept. Imagine what the world would be like if as much effort was put forth to pass on a favor as there was to pass on a chain letter or a get-rich-quick scheme. What would happen to the need for welfare or food stamps or counseling if we all were working to pass on the Christie story, with the first step being to unselfishly help others without any need for anything in return? Next time someone asks for your assistance, or if you see someone in need and you have the means to meet that need, do so. Do so without the expectation of repayment or thanks, but with the expectation they will do the same for someone else. I hope you enjoyed that story. I hope you see how applicable that story is to today. Again, imagine what would happen if each of us that are listening to this video even helped 2 people. And then imagine what would happen if those 2 people in turn helped 2 people. I did the math and I can't guarantee it's right, but by my calculations, if that happened 29 times, 29 layers of everybody helping 2 people, we would more than have enough events to help every single person in our country. And only 33 total times, so 4 more times than enough for the whole country. It would be enough for the entire globe, with enough help left over to spill over the edges. So it's not an insurmountable task. By you helping 2 people in a way that you are able to, we will be able to help the entire world. And if we each are able to help someone, and if it reaches as far as my math would suggest, this world would be a far better place. The world is hurting, but we can do something about it in a very simple and sustainable way. I'm going to provide information in the comments below that you can use to get more information, and I hope you do it. I hope that you share this video. I hope that you spread the word. I hope that you actively seek out people that you can help with. It could be simply sending an email to someone that you haven't been in touch with recently, or it can be seeing someone's sidewalk that needs to have the snow shoveled off of it. It need not be a big deal. It can be a phone call to someone that's shut in, that can't get out. But please do so. Make Katie Christie proud. Thank you.